So as you may know, the multiverse is one of the most overused concepts in DC and Marvel content, primarily Marvel. Nowadays, it's just like such a lazy way to attract viewers because the multiverse is centered around the feeling of nostalgia, right? You see some old characters or some dead characters come back to meet with current characters, and again, it's all based off nostalgia. However, I'm gonna take you back to a time where the multiverse was actually an interesting concept. I remember playing this game and thinking, wow, this would be such a cool concept. And if I could go back in time and tell my 8-year-old self something, I would say be careful what you ask for, because 10 years later or 11 years later, the multiverse was one of the most boring things ever, and anytime a movie sneak peeks it or shows it or mentions it, I instantly want nothing to do with it. So some of you may be familiar with Spider-Man Shattered Dimensions, but for those who aren't, I'm gonna give like a spoiler-free review of it. So the introduction to the whole premises of the game is there's a tablet of order, and basically chaos shatters all of them into different dimensions. So you're introduced to 4 Spider-Man. There is the Amazing Spider-Man, Spider-Man Noir, 2099 Spider-Man, and Ultimate Spider-Man. You took turns playing different missions with each of the Spider-Man being set in their dimension. For example, Amazing Spider-Man was set in classic New York, so your typical Spider-Man story. You fought villains like Juggernaut, Sandman, Kraven the Hunter. Then there was Spider-Man Noir, who was set in the 1930s. He fought villains like Hammerhead, Green Goblin, and the Vulture. His whole world and even his costume design and the villain's costume design was very 1930s, so it was actually kind of cool to see that. And then there was Spider-Man 2099. This character has gotten a lot bigger since the Spider-Verse movie came out, but he fought villains like Hobgoblin and Scorpion based in the futuristic setting, so basically like a Neo City, very, very tall buildings, flying cars, whatever you think of the future, it was there. And last but certainly not least, because this was the coolest Spider-Man in my opinion, Ultimate Spider-Man. He had the symbiote suit on, and it had like those like purple highlights on it. It looked so beautiful, honestly. And he had the coolest villain in the game. He got to fight Deadpool, and this Deadpool was like a Ryan Reynolds clone. Ryan Reynolds did not voice act him, but whoever did an amazing job, and it's definitely up there with Ryan Reynolds.
You know you can run inside.
Wow, that's not too big or anything. Can somebody say overcompensating?
Spidey! Can I call you Spidey? Hey, thanks so much for being part of our little webisode. Cause you shoot the web. Okay, hey, can I get you anything before we start? Soda, bottled water?
How about the fragment?
Okay, good one. Okay, here we go. Picture up in 3, 2, and... Welcome to Pain Factor! Is there a mute button for him?
And he also did casually fight Carnage, which was pretty cool as well. And if you think the only differences between these Spider-Man were the worlds and the character designs, each Spider-Man had a unique gameplay mechanic tailored to themselves. So, for example, Spider-Man Noir was a very dark 1930s universe. There was a lot of stealth in that world. You didn't really fight large crowds of enemies at one time. It was mostly taking them out one by one in the dark. Amazing Spider-Man, you take on a lot of different villains at the same time. Symbiote Spider-Man was like that too, but you had the symbiote, which made you a lot more powerful, and you had a lot of cool abilities with like the tendrils coming from your venom like body. Honestly, it was really cool. So without spoiling the plot, basically you had to collect the different fragments from different worlds by fighting the villains. I'm not gonna say why just for plot reasons, but basically you went through missions finding these fragments, and there was always a villain that was defending it. And they added a really cool character named Madame Web. I'm not too familiar with this character in the comics, but basically she was teaching the Spider-Man like about teamwork, and it was just kind of cool for all of them to come together. They were all like brothers. It was really nice. Like it was a nice addition to the game. But my overall assessment of the game is it was a thrilling and diverse experience for Spider-Man fans, engaging in storylines and challenging gameplay. I know that sounded professional. It took me like 10 minutes to write that statement. So now I'll be going over why I think it was such a good game. Number one being the introduction to the multiverse was really well done. This game introduced the multiverse, and it was kind of cool in the beginning. I know it's oversaturated now, but although you were playing as different versions of Spider-Man, it never felt like they were the same, and the environment of the world was very unique. It was very well done. You can tell that they didn't take the lazy way out when designing the different worlds. Secondly, the characters all felt unique despite all being Spider-Man. And I know I did mention gameplay, that is a part of it, but my main point is the characters and the way that they talk, the way that they think, their personalities. For example, Ultimate Spider-Man having the symbiote, he was a little more sassy, a little more dark. Amazing Spider-Man was the Amazing Spider-Man. He was very like funny, just like typical Spider-Man. Futuristic, like Miguel O'Hara, futuristic Spider-Man, 2099, whatever you want to call him. He was more tech savvy and more serious. And Noir Spider-Man was kind of just more gritty. Like he was just more about getting it done, and he didn't really care like what he had to do to get it done. A third reason why I think the game was such a good game is the villain lineup. The villain lineup was top tier. We had almost every major Spider-Man villain featured in this game, with some even being from past and future worlds. And it gave us Deadpool, but I'm kind of biased. Deadpool's one of my favorite like anti-heroes. But in this game, he actually felt like a villain. Not to mention, like I said before, they nailed the character designs, they nailed the personalities, and overall, I was just really happy with the villains that they chose. My fourth and final reason is it gave us a great example of how to do the multiverse the right way, which is not using it to bring back good characters. Because we're used to seeing these characters being brought back to the multiverse, and it removes all the emotion and disbelief from a character's death. It almost feels like in today's superhero movies, whenever a character dies, you don't even feel disbelieved or any emotion because you know some way, somehow they're going to bring them back, especially if they're a character that's very impactful. Like when Superman was supposedly dead in the Justice League movie, like come on, Superman's not dying. They're gonna bring him back. And what did they do? They brought him back. Everybody saw that from a mile away, and I don't understand why DC and Marvel keeps doing this because it's so frustrating because we know you're not slick. You're not pulling a fast one over anybody. But I actually want to focus on Spider-Man Shattered Dimensions and how it compares to the Spider-Man games. I'm going to be basing it off of Spider-Man Remastered and Miles Morales, as I have not played Spider-Man 2 yet. So please do not leave any spoilers. Don't say, oh, well, Spider-Man 2 blew this out the water. Brother, I haven't played the game, so I don't know. And I do plan on playing it when it comes to Steam, because I have a PC. I don't have a PS5, so I'm not going to be buying a PS5 just for one game. But based on my knowledge and my experience, I think that Spider-Man Shattered Dimensions was the best Spider-Man game ever released. And I'm not knocking down Spider-Man Remastered or Miles Morales. Both were great games, although I think that Miles was kind of short to be a game. I felt like it should have been like a very, very long DLC. But Spider-Man Remastered wasn't a bad game at all, plot-wise, character-wise, mechanically-wise. It was just, I think that Shattered Dimensions had a really, really cool idea, and it was not oversaturated like it is nowadays. And they just capitalized on it perfectly. But let me know what you guys think. Have you guys played Spider-Man Shattered Dimensions? If you have, do you agree with me? Do you disagree? If you haven't, let me know. Like maybe watch somebody play it. It is available on the 360 and the PS3, I believe. You can get it on PC too, but I can't endorse that because it's legally you can't. So do not download it on PC. You can't see my face, but I'm winking. Well, that's the video, guys. If you guys did enjoy it, please leave a like, please subscribe, because I'm going to be making more videos like this. If you haven't checked out my other videos, make sure to go check one out. I'm sure one has popped up on your screen. That one's the best one for you according to YouTube, so go check it out. And as always, have a blessed day.